Hi again, I'm David Lazarus. This is continuing election coverage from the LA Times newsroom. This would be our final segment of the entire go-around, which means the finish line is in sight. But we are not done yet because there is still more analysis, more insight to bring you as we wrap up what has turned out to be a really, really exciting election. You know all the big stories, of course, President Obama, Prop 30, the various races that have been going on, but we can still delve a little bit deeper and the data will remain at your fingertips for as long as you need it. All you got to do is go to latimes.com. You'll find all those neat interactive maps that we've been playing with here throughout our coverage. You'll also be able to find all of the stories, all of the analyses that wrap it all up. And well, that's what newspapers do. They help you understand what's going on in the world around you and what to make of things that are still to come. And still to come here, well, we're going to get some more of your opinions, and you can share them with us still at latimes.com/askthetimes. I'll also be talking more about where this divided electorate will be going soon. That's coming up in just a few minutes. Now, if you go to the latimes.com website, you'll see a very, very cool cartoon by our staff cartoonist, David Horsey. Let's take a look at that and meet the man himself. He's over the desk with Sarah Hashimwaris.
All right, thanks, David. One of the hottest stories on our website right now is a political cartoon. Actually, it's a political cartoon and column by Pulitzer Prize-winning editorial cartoonist David Horsey, whom I spoke with last night. And it's one of the most heavily trafficked pieces on latimes.com. In the piece, David suggests that voters took Republicans to the woodshed on Election Day. David, thanks for joining us today. So first up, tell viewers what it was like trying to deliver a cartoon and a column on Deadline.
Well, I deliver a column and cartoon on Deadline pretty much every day because that's the way I work. But this was different because I didn't know where it was all going to go. And I was expecting a really late night. So I had 3 ideas going at once. And when it all wrapped up early, actually made my job easier. I could just settle into one, get the drawing done, and then write a quick column and get out of here before midnight.
Sure. So, we've seen the one that was on latimes.com today where, Obama's, former years in the White House. What else did you have in mind just in case Governor Romney took the election?
Well, I actually had just a little idea sketch here. And this would have been fun to do.
Sure, and describe it.
It's actually the Romney victory dance, and it's him leading a conga line of billionaires, angry white males, gun owners, Tea Partiers. It would have been fun.
A big party, safe to say.
Yeah, so instead I did a much more respectful one, I guess.
Sure, you summed it up quite nicely.
Obama as Uncle Sam.
Sure. You wrote, if Republicans fail to learn the lesson of this election, they are fools.
Isn't that a nice thing to say? But I'm not sure they will learn, but it takes a while. Sometimes you need to get beat over the head. But I think the biggest thing is there's been a lot of talk for 4 years about, taking back America. And, this president we have is not quite American. And as if there is something over here that is really America. And I think what they have learned last night is America is not what it used to be. America is a new place of young people, of many cultures, many races, and Latinos and black voters spoke last night, especially those black voters in Ohio and Florida who stood in line for hours and hours and hours because they were not going to let their voice be suppressed. And that's probably the biggest lesson for Republicans, that they cannot go on being the party of just angry white males.
Great. Well, we are glad you were able to sort of illustrate last night's, final election.
I'll keep dealing with the results for the next several days.
All right, great. Thank you, David Horsey. And now I will throw it to David Lazarus. David?
With a big win, but when you look at the popular vote, it's still very, very close out there. In fact, most of our recent elections have been very, very close. In the case of 2000, maybe a bit too close. All right, is this the new normal for the United States? To help answer that question, I'm joined by Ken Miller. He's an associate professor of government at Claremont McKenna College. Ken, thanks very much for joining us. All right, so a divided electorate, basically this 50-50 coin toss that seems to decide how things happen in the United States. Is that just how we are, and is that the case essentially for the immediate future?
Well, it has been since 2000. We've had 3 out of the 4 most recent presidential elections come down to essentially a 50-50 split. The only exception was 2008, where Barack Obama sort of broke through and had a more decisive electoral victory. But last night's election returned to the basic 50-50 split.
All right, so when we face a dynamic like that, obviously there's a lot of partisanship in how we're doing politics, and obviously you have both parties very beholden to their particular bases. Is that basically going to define U.S. politics going forward, or is there any sort of historical precedence to say, you know, this is one of those phases that we go through, and then finally grown-ups will come back into the room?
Well, I think what's unique about our current situation is that the political parties have become more ideologically polarized. We don't have the phenomenon of, as we did in the past, a lot of conservative Democrats or liberal Republicans who'd be more likely to cross party lines to help build coalitions that were based on compromise. We have the Republican Party is increasingly conservative, the Democratic Party increasingly liberal. They're cohesive internally, but they have a very difficult time sort of reaching across those partisan barriers to reach compromise on very difficult policy issues.
All right, well, let's talk a little bit about whether compromise is possible. Last night in his victory speech, President Obama talked about the need to reach across the aisle, to be bipartisan. Also, Republican challenger Mitt Romney made the same remark in his concession speech. Well, there was talk of a grand bargain, if you will, in terms of tax reform, deficit reduction, entitlement reform. All of that was sort of on the table when President Obama and House Speaker John Boehner got together, and then it all fell apart. Well, part of the reason for that, as Mitch McConnell of the Republican camp made clear, the Republican agenda centered on one particular goal, and that was defy President Obama and deny him another 4 years. All right, well, that's obviously no longer a going concern. He's in for another 4 years. So do you anticipate that there will be a more conciliatory atmosphere among the Republicans, and that they will be willing to perhaps start cutting the deals, making the compromises that are necessary to govern this large and very complicated country?
I think part of the difficulty for Republicans is many Republicans who might be the most likely ones to cross over and sort of deal with the president would be potential victims of primary challenges from the right, because, as I said, the Republican Party is the conservative party, and so you have the danger of primary challenges from Tea Party type conservatives. So that's always going to be a pressure against Republicans. I do think that there is a sense in the country that we can't just sort of hit this fiscal cliff that we're reaching at the end of this year without having some give by both sides. I think there's going to be pressure on both Republicans and the president and Democrats to try to find some pragmatic responses to this growing crisis.
All right, Ken Miller is an associate professor of government at Claremont McKenna College. Ken, thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks, David.
Now, throughout our coverage, your thoughts, your perspectives have been very welcome. You can post them online at latimes.com/askthetimes. You can also tweet your little heart out, because we're following Twitter. And we've been sending our cameras out to take a Vox Pop pulse reading of what people have to say. And here's a quick rundown.
My name is Rekefet Gorman, and I'm a first-time voter. I came from East.
My name is Marcos, and I came out to vote today because I believe our president needs more than 4 years to clean up 8 years worth of mess from his predecessor. I also came out today to vote no on Measure B because I don't feel that we should be spending money hiring people to go watch pornography being filmed in order to make sure that they're using protection. I believe the industry can regulate itself and has been doing a good job up until this point.
My name is Grant Wright, and I'm here to vote today to try to get Obama back in and let him finish up what he started. And it's been a long time for our society and people to get together, and I just hope Democrats and the Republicans can get together and get this thing done.
My name is LaShawn Vaughn, and I'm from Venice, California. And this is my first time voting, and I'm glad because I've never really took interest in voting before, but today it just felt different, that I feel like I want to use my voice.
I'm Janet Smith. I'm a Venice, California resident for 30 years, and I'm voting because I believe personally that not only is it a privilege and a right, but I think it should be an obligation to vote. If you live in the United States, if you take advantage of services that this country provides, you are required to have a voice. Why give away your power? Vote.
My name is Rowena Williams. I live on Cloverdale in the city of Los Angeles. I came to vote today. I arrived at 10:40 a.m. It is now 1:40 p.m. But this election is very important. I'm here to support Barack Obama. Everyone should vote. For me, as a black woman, I remember people dying to give people the right to vote. So everyone should go out and vote, no matter who you're voting for.
All right, doesn't get more interactive than that. And now let's tie things up a little bit with my partner in crime, Jim Rainey. Jim and I were engaging in a talkathon last night as first Ohio went President Obama's way, and then the race got called for President Obama. Well, we now had the chance to sleep on it a little bit. Now that you had the chance to sleep on it, what sort of perspective comes your way?
Well, I think, it was somewhat what we expected, but it's like anything. It's like in sports, people predict and then you got to play the game, and the game was played last night. President Obama won decisively, we know now. The thing I'm seeing this morning from conservatives is quite interesting. What you're seeing from most of the sort of movement, so-called movement conservatives, the Tea Party conservatives, is saying we're going right back to where we started. We're going back to our message. Mitt Romney wasn't conservative enough. He wasn't a purist when he said he was severely conservative. We didn't really buy it. That wasn't really us. They're starting to roll out the names of the people they really like, the Paul Ryans, the Marco Rubios of the world, Scott Walker of Wisconsin, the governor of Wisconsin, Marco Rubio's the senator from Florida. So they're looking ahead 4 years. They're talking about, I don't hear any talk of compromise. The one place that I do hear talk of compromise, they clearly know they got walloped by the Latino vote. Latino vote went up a point or two, and it went overwhelmingly for Barack Obama. They know that killed them in a lot of these key states. It may still do them in Florida. They're not backing down, in other words.
All right, but what's beyond that, it's not just the Latino vote. It's also African Americans. It's also women. It's also young people. They all skewed strongly towards President Obama. If I was a member of the GOP, at least part of their cadre of deep thinkers, I'd be saying to myself, you know what? That's a big swath of the electorate that we are not appealing to.
Yeah, they're concerned about that. I think the one group they see that maybe they still is within their reach most readily would be Latinos. And I do think the one issue you might actually see some compromise on at long last would be on immigration reform. I think if you look back, we had people talking during the Republican primaries about electrifying the fence between us and Mexico. They derided the governor of Texas, Rick Perry, when he talked about being compassionate towards immigrants and the fact his state gave scholarships to immigrant children. They belittled him.
They beat him up for that.
Yeah, and people heard this and they saw this, and Latinos did not like that. It's kind of understandable why they didn't like it. And you see really, even amongst the most conservative Republicans today, you see a little bit of give there that, wow, maybe we need to talk about this issue a little bit differently. So that seems to finally be settling in. Wouldn't be surprised at all to see the Republicans take on immigration, try and go a little bit towards President Obama. Exactly what that means in terms of specifics, I don't know. Could there be a partial amnesty or allowing in at least of children, people who were brought here when they were very, very young? I don't know, but there seems like there's going to be some give on that issue if I had to guess.
All right, political writer Jim Rainey, thank you very much for joining us. You can see more of Jim's work and the rest of our crack political team at the Politics Now blog. Just give us a sense, Jim, are you guys just cranking out the material and essentially are we going to get all of the updates on Politics Now? I mean, is that the dumping ground for all that stuff?
It's a dumping ground.
And I mean that in the nicest possible way, of course.
That's how I ended up there. Of course, it's the dumping ground. Yes, we're going to continue to crank it out. There's a lot to be said today. We got Mark Barabak and Paul West, our two lead political writers. We've still got people in Florida, Ohio. We're taking a closer look at what happened there. I mean, in Florida, kind of amazing, 12 years after the debacle of the 2000 race, we had people in line till, the Miami Herald reported, till after 1 in the morning. So there's a lot of questions to be answered about how can we possibly not be getting this voting system right 12 years after we had a constitutional crisis on voting. So.
All right. And you can find all that and more at the Politics Now blog at latimes.com. Also, your thoughts are welcome. Even when we are not back in your face with all of these updates, you can still chime in at latimes.com/askthetimes. Now let's move back to a little bit of that Vox Pop and get another taste of what people are saying out on the street.
Hey guys, all right, so we had a bit of technical difficulties. It's the last leg. We've been on air for a long time. It was the first sort of undertaking. You know, we've looked at your tweets. You guys got back to us at latimes.com/askthetimes. You also weighed in on Twitter with the hashtag VoteCA. We've got the paper right here. It says Obama again.
Old school.
We got it
new school too.
We've got it on latimes.com as well. And so, David, closing thoughts on this big, race? This is a long leg for us to be on air. It was sort of the first time we undertook something like this.
Absolutely, and it was a learning experience, I think,
Yes.
for everybody. One thing that was exciting, not just the news and not just the meat and potatoes of what happened with this election, but just, if you don't mind me talking a little bit of shop for a sec, this is one of the first times that the LA Times has ever really risen to the occasion like this and marshaled its resources for a broadcast presentation. I mean, we're very strong in a lot of media out there, basically every media you can get your hands on. Now we're trying to take it up a level, and our friends at home can't see this necessarily, but we got dozens of people gathered around here right now. We've got a lot of equipment that's kind of strange to us, and I just want to give big props to all the editors and the reporters and the photographers and the tech people and the web people and all those folks who came together to make this presentation of our coverage so strong.
Yes, a big thank you, and especially for me, first time doing live with the latimes.com. So this is quite an exciting and interesting experience, David. And thank you to you.
Oh,
my amazing co-host.
A lot of love right there. And thank you most of all to you, because you stuck with us through this, even when our little technical glitches got there, and you helped us, reach this new point. I hope we brought you something a little extra too. It's been a very exciting election. Stay tuned to latimes.com and to this old school but still very valuable way of getting your news, because we're going to have all of the developments, not just today, not just tomorrow, but all the way going forward. I'm David Lazarus.
I'm Sarah Hashimoris. Thanks for tuning in.